The soup wasn't salted. That's what started it all. All a simple human mistake in a house that permitted none. Alina had served the perfect consomme for 7 years. Tonight, distracted by their crying son, she forgot the salt. Her husband, Leonid, didn't yell. He appended the priceless tureen, gripped her arms hard enough to bruise, and called her useless. The next morning, he texted commands. Important guests were coming for lunch. Cover everything up, smile. At work, Leonid, a merciless corporate raider, prepared to destroy a legacy, only to have an old man reflect his life back at him with devastating clarity. The man knew his father, knew the bruises hidden by bracelets, the empty smiles. "You learned the wrong lesson, boy," he said, and Leonid, standing at the pinnacle of his power, turned as pale as chalk. The porcelain soup tureen was a wedding gift from his mother-in-law. It was bone china, impossibly thin, painted with delicate cobalt swallows in flight. For 7 years, Alina had served her husband's favorite wild mushroom consomme in it every Friday night, and for 7 years, Leonid Volkov had sipped it silently, his approval measured only by the absence of criticism. Tonight, the swallows seemed to tremble as she placed the tureen on the polished mahogany table. The kitchen had been a war zone of concentration. The rehydrated porcini, the clear, rich broth sieved 3 times, the pinch of thyme, the whisper of white pepper, but in the final, frantic moment, as Misha's cries echoed from the nursery upstairs and the timer, for the sourdough bread dinged. She had forgotten the salt. She realized it the second Leonid lifted the first spoonful to his lips. His eyes, the cool gray of a winter sea, flickered from the soup to her face. He did not spit it out. He did not shout. He simply lowered the spoon back into the bowl with a soft, definitive clink that was louder than any slam of a fist. "Alina," he said, his voice a calm, deep channel. "This is unsalted." I'm so sorry, Leo. It was Misia. He was crying, and the bread. The bread is irrelevant. The soup is the centerpiece. It is bland. It is nothing. He pushed the bowl away, the movement precise and full of contempt. After the day I have had, negotiating with those Philistines from the ministry, I come home to nothing. Apologies piled in her throat, choking her. She stood from her chair, hands fluttering. "Let me take it. I can add salt. Just a moment." As she reached for his bowl, his hand shot out, not to hit her, but to grasp the tureen, the beautiful, stupid tureen. "No," he said, "if the foundation is flawed, the entire structure is worthless." And he appended it. A tidal wave of steaming amber consomme surged across the tablecloth, swamping the silver, staining the linen, drowning the bread basket. It cascaded onto the Persian rug below, a gift from his father. Alina cried out, a short, sharp sound of dismay for the rug, for the linen, for the wasted hours. Leonid stood, his 6'3" frame unfolding with controlled fury. He stepped around the table, not through the soup, and stood before her. She flinched, a conditioned response she hated herself for. He didn't strike her face. He never did. He gripped her upper arms, his fingers digging into the soft flesh, and shook her once, hard, her head snapping back. "Useless," he hissed, the word carrying the weight of all her perceived failures. The too loud child. The slightly dusty banister, the soup. You have one purpose, to maintain a haven of perfection. Is that so difficult? He released her with a shove that sent her stumbling against the sideboard. A crystal decanter rattled. Then he straightened his bespoke waistcoat, plucked his tablet from the side table, and walked out. She heard his study door click shut, the definitive sound of his world sealing itself off from hers. Alina stood amidst the wreckage. The smell of mushrooms and humiliation thickened the air. Her arms throbbed where his fingers had been. Upstairs, Amisha's cries reached a new peak. The soup pooled on the floor, seeping into the centuries-old wool. She did not cry. She hadn't cried in years. Instead, a cold, clear thought formed. I have to clean this up. It took her 2 hours. The rug would need professional attention. The tablecloth was likely ruined. She fed Misha, rocked him to sleep, her movements robotic. She was applying a stain remover to the linen when her phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Leonid sent from his study. Leonid, Petrov is confirming for lunch tomorrow. 1 p.m., his wife, Anya, will be joining. She is interested in the gallery scene. Ensure the house is impeccable. Serve the Georgian wine. Wear the blue dress. And smile. The blue dress was couture, tight and elegant, the color of a deep lake. It made her feel like an exhibit. She stared at the message, at the words and smile. The bruise of his grip was blossoming on her arm. A shadow in the shape of his fingertips. The command was absolute. Cover everything up. The mess, the shame, the pain. Smile. The next morning, Leonid emerged from his study. As if the previous night had been a minor, technical glitch now resolved. He kissed her on the cheek, his lips cool and dry. The Petrovs are crucial, Elena. His firm is handling the merger. Anya Petrov is a cultural vulture. Impress her. The house must sing of quiet, effortless success. Quiet, effortless success. The mantra of their life. He left for the office, his driver holding the door of the black sedan open. Alina watched him go, then turned to the fortress of their home. Stunning. Brutalist-inspired villa on the outskirts of the city. All clean lines and floor-to-ceiling glass. A glass box that required constant polishing inside and out. She worked like a demon. The cleaning service came and went under her hawkish supervision. She arranged flowers, white orchids, austere and expensive. She polished the glass table until it disappeared. She prepared a menu of chilled cucumber soup, double-checking the salt, seared scallops on celery root puree, and a blood orange tart. She decanted the expensive Georgian saparavi. She put on the blue dress, applied makeup to cover the pallor of sleeplessness, and painted on a neutral lipstick. At 12:55 p.m., she was a statue of composed hosthood. Leonid arrived with the Petrovs. Dmitry Petrov was a bull of a man, with a loud laugh that seemed to test the structural integrity of the glass walls. His wife, Anya, was slender, sharp-eyed, dressed in avant-garde black. Her gaze swept the room like a scanner, taking inventory of the art, the furniture, the wife. Alina, darling, you look radiant, Leonid said, his hand resting on the small of her back. A masterful performance of conjugal pride. His touch made her skin crawl, but she tilted her head, offering the smile she had been commanded to produce. "Welcome to our home," she said, her voice a calibrated instrument of warmth. Lunch was a ballet of perfection. The soup was praised. Anya Petrov, between delicate bites of scallop, quizzed Elena on local galleries. Elena, who had spent the previous night researching for this exact moment, offered knowledgeable suggestions, her smile never slipping. She discussed contemporary sculptors with a light, confident air. Leonid watched her, a faint, approving glint in his eye. She was performing her function. She was making him look good. "You have a beautiful home," Anya remarked, her eyes lingering on a controversial, abstract painting in the living room. "So serene? It must be a lot of work to maintain such serenity." Elena felt the ghost of fingers on her arm. "It's a labor of love," she heard herself say, the lie smooth as silk. "Leo provides such a wonderful canvas. I just try to keep the picture clean." Leonid's smile deepened. Petrov boomed about the virtues of a supportive partner. The conversation flowed with the wine. Alina excused herself briefly to check on Misha, who was napping under the care of the nanny in the wing. As she walked down the hallway, the sound of the men's laughter from the dining room felt distant, muffled. In the nursery, she looked at her son's peaceful face, her flawless mask threatening to fracture. What was she teaching him? What world was she building for him in this gilded cage? She returned to the table, her smile instantly back in place. The performance continued for another hour. Finally, the Petrovs left, full of compliments and promises to have them over soon. The sedan pulled away. The moment the car disappeared down the drive, the atmosphere in the house solidified. Leonid's affable mask dissolved. He loosened his tie. The skyllips were slightly overseared. And you talked over Petrov when he was mentioning the Budapest project. Elena's composure, held by sheer will for hours, finally snapped. They loved it. Anya said the meal was exquisite. Anya Petrov wouldn't know exquisite if it bit her, but you managed. The house was acceptable. It was his highest form of praise. He walked to his study. I have calls. Do not disturb me. He didn't mention the soup. He didn't mention the shaking. It was erased, another successfully covered up flaw. Alina stood alone in the pristine, silent living room, surrounded by the echoes of forced laughter and the crushing weight of his. Acceptable. The performance was over. The cracks she had plastered over for the audience remained, wider and deeper than ever beneath the surface. Leonid arrived at Vertimnus capital just after 3 p.m., the lunch, while a social necessity had put him behind. His office was a temple to modern efficiency, steel, glass, a breathtaking view of the city's skyline. His employees moved through the corridors with hushed urgency. He was known as a demanding but brilliant strategist, a man who built empires out of complex mergers and leveraged buyouts. His control was absolute, his temper legendary, but always ice cold. Never hot, a calculated weapon. He had 2 calls with Hong Kong, then reviewed the latest due diligence reports on the Petrov merger. It was a delicate beast. Petrov's company had some questionable environmental liabilities buried in its subsidiaries. Leonid's job was to unbury them, assess the risk, and structure the deal so that the liability and the blame landed elsewhere. It was a puzzle, and he excelled at puzzles. At 5:30 p.m., his assistant buzzed. Mr. Volkov? Mr. Haley is ready for you in the conference room. Alistair Hale, the founder and majority shareholder of Hale & Sons, the venerable, family-owned engineering firm Leonid was in the process of ruthlessly acquiring. Haley had resisted the friendly overtures. Now, it was hostile. Leonid had uncovered a pattern of creative accounting in the old man's firm, enough to spook the board and force this meeting. It was the final move in the endgame. Leonid straightened his cuffs. He felt the familiar, potent surge of the hunt. This was where he was master. He walked down the corridor, his footsteps soundless on the plush carpet. He pushed open the door to the small, private conference room. Alistair Hale was not the broken, defeated lion Leonid expected. He was old, yes, his white hair thin, his hands liver-spotted. But he stood by the window, looking out at the city. Leonid felt he owned a piece of, and his posture was not of defeat, but a profound, weary dignity. He turned as Leonid entered. Volkov, Hale said, his voice gravelly but steady. Alistair, thank you for coming. Leonid took his seat at the head of the table, gesturing for Haley to sit opposite. I trust you've had a chance to review our final proposal. I've reviewed your blackmail, Hale corrected quietly. He remained standing. The discrepancies your people found. Discrepancies that, if made public, would not only sink the share price, but potentially invite criminal investigation. For your CFO, certainly. Possibly for you, I'm offering a clean exit. A generous one considering. Hale's eyes, a faded blue, fixed on Leonid. They didn't hold fear. They held something worse. Pity. You think this is a game, don't you? A complex, high-stakes game with winners and losers. It is a game, Leonid said, a slight smile touching his lips. And the rules are clarity, leverage, and consequence. And what of the consequence for the 2,000 people who work for me? Hale asked, his voice gaining a little heat. People with families, with mortgages. What of the consequence for the towns where our factories are the heart? You'll strip the assets, sell the patents, and leave a shell. You call that a win? Sentimentality is a liability, Alistair. It clouds judgment. My offer is the rational outcome of your own poor judgment. Leonid tapped the folder on the table. Sign. Walk away with your fortune. Your legacy will be that of a pragmatist, not a convict. Hale finally moved. He didn't reach for the pen. He walked slowly around the table until he stood beside Leonid's chair. He leaned down slightly, and Leonid caught a faint scent of old wool and pipe tobacco. I knew your father, Hale said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Leonid went very still. My father is irrelevant to this discussion. Is he? Hale's pitying gaze swept over Leonid's perfect suit, his cool expression. Ivan Volkov was a hard man, a cruel man, some said. He built his first warehouse with his fists, and a bank loan he terrified out of a clerk. He ruled his business and his home with absolute terror. I remember seeing him at a charity gala once. His wife, your mother, was with him, a beautiful, quiet woman. She had a bruise on her wrist, covered by a bracelet. She smiled the whole night, a brilliant, empty smile. Leonid felt a strange coldness begin in his gut. You will not speak of my parents. I heard Ivan died suddenly. A stroke, they said. Left his empire to his only son. The son who learned all his father's lessons about power, about control, about making people afraid. Hale straightened up, looking down at him. But you learned the wrong lesson, boy. Your father didn't win because he was feared. He died alone in a mansion as cold as this office, with a wife who was a ghost and a son who became a mirror. They had no legacy, just assets. And now you're doing the same, building a bigger, colder mansion, turning your own home into another corporate asset to be managed. I see the news sometimes, Leonid. Your beautiful wife at Gallus, that same brilliant, empty smile. The words struck Leonid with a physical force. The image of Alina last night, flinching. The perfect, obedient smile at lunch today. The command he had texted, cover everything up and smile. He saw with sudden, horrifying clarity, not his wife, but his mother. He saw the taurine appended, not by his father, but by himself. He was not the rebellious son who had escaped his father's shadow. He was the dutiful heir, meticulously replicating the tyranny in high definition. With better art and more expensive soup, the coldness in his gut spread to his limbs. The room with its perfect view seemed to tilt. The facade of the master strategist, the man in control of every variable, cracked. He saw himself not as a titan, but as a pathetic copy. A ghost repeating the patterns of a dead man in a more expensive suit. The color drained from his face. He turned as pale as chalk. Hale saw it. The moment of shattering recognition. He said nothing more. He simply picked up the unsigned proposal from the table, tore it neatly in half, and dropped the pieces in front of the ashen-faced Leonid. Some games, Hale said softly, aren't worth winning. Good day, Mr. Volkov. He walked out, leaving Leonid alone in the silent, sterile room. Leonid did not move. He stared at his own reflection in the darkened glass of the window. He did not see a king of finance. He saw a man in a gilded cage of his own making, shaking a woman over unsalted soup, demanding a smile to cover the bruises. He saw the cycle, perfect and monstrous, and he was trapped in the very center of it. The drive home was a blur of city lights streaking past the tinted windows. Leonid's usual post-work clarity was replaced by a hollow, echoing dissonance. Hale's words played on a loop. That same brilliant, empty smile. He saw Elena's face at lunch, a perfect mannequin. He saw his mother's face from a childhood memory, turning away quickly to hide a reddened eye. He'd always told himself he was nothing like his father. His father was a brute, a roaring bear of a man from the old country. Leonid was refined, controlled, a surgeon of finance. But the outcome was the same. The fear in a woman's eyes was the same. He entered the house, the heavy door sighing shut behind him. The hall was spotless, smelling of lemon polish and orchids. Alina emerged from the living room, still in the blue dress, her smile already forming, a reflex. It didn't reach her eyes. They were watchful, careful. "How were the Coles?" she asked, her tone light, surfacing. He didn't answer. He looked at her, really looked, as if for the first time in years. He saw the slight tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers twisted a seam of her dress. He saw the faint, yellowish shadow beneath the expertly applied concealer on her upper arm. His mark. The lunch was successful, she continued, filling the silence he left hanging. Petrov sent a nice email. Anya asked for the gallery list. "Elena," he said, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. She stopped, her smile faltering. "Yes?" He wanted to say something, to ask about the bruise, to mention the soup, to utter a sentence that wasn't a command or a criticism. But the language for that had atrophied, died years ago. The silence stretched, becoming its own oppressive force. "I'm going to the study," he finally said, the familiar retreat. "Don't wait up." He saw the minuscule relaxation in her posture. His absence was her relief. The realization was another cold knife in his gut. Alone in his sanctum, surrounded by the trophies of his conquests, Leonid poured a whiskey but didn't drink it. He opened his laptop, not to work, but on a whim. He typed his mother's name into a search engine. Natalia Volkova. The results were few. A mention in his father's obituary survived by his wife. Natalia, a grainy photo from a charity ball a decade ago. In it, she stood slightly behind his father, her smile serene and utterly vacant. She had died 2 years after his father, of what the doctor called a general failure of the spirit. Leonid had arranged a lavish funeral and hadn't thought of her much since. Now, he couldn't stop thinking of her, the silence of her life, the expensive cage she'd occupied. He looked at the closed door of his study, and for a moment, it wasn't his door, but his father's, and he was on the wrong side of it. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Elena scrubbed at a ready clean counter. The encounter in the hall had unsettled her. Leonid's stare had been different. Not angry, but lost. It was more unnerving than his rage. Rage was predictable. This was an unknown variable. She glanced at her laptop, open to a private browser window. For weeks, she'd been conducting quiet, frantic research. Jurisdictions with favorable custody laws. How to document emotional abuse. Offshore accounts for women. She had a small, secret email account. The first tentative, terrifying email had been sent yesterday to a lawyer recommended in a closed online forum for women in her situation. The subject line, initial inquiry. Misha was her catalyst. Every time Leonid dismissed him as too emotional, every time he insisted, the boys' laughter was unseemly. A fierce animal protectiveness rose in her. She would not let him sculpt their son into another cold, perfect monster. She would not let Misha learn that love was conditional on flawless performance. She opened a new tab and searched for Anya. Petrov, the woman, was more than a cultural vulture. She was a noted art patron with a sharp, intelligent blog. Alina read an article she'd written about female artists who used domestic objects to explore themes of entrapment. One line struck her: the most potent prisons are often those we are taught to call home. Alina's heart hammered. It felt like a sign, a message in a bottle. Could Anya Petrov be an ally? Or was she just another sharp-eyed predator, capable of sniffing out weakness? The risk was astronomical, if Leonid even suspected. She closed the laptop. One step at a time. First, the lawyer, then a plan. She needed money he couldn't trace. She needed documents. She needed a place to go. The magnitude of it was paralyzing, but the alternative, a lifetime of unsalted soups and silent bruises. And Misha, growing up in the shadow of that same tyranny, was unthinkable. The gilded cage had become intolerable. Now, she had to find the lock and the strength to turn the key. The lawyer's name was Irina Vasilova. Her website was stark professional and listed her expertise in high net worth family law with a special focus on complex and sensitive marital dissolutions. The phrase gave Alina a sliver of hope. 3 days after the soup incident, huddled in a corner of the local library with Misha in the children's section, Alina made the call from a pay-as-you-go phone. Vasilova, a crisp, no-nonsense voice, answered. Elena's throat closed. She watched Misha stack blocks, his small face a portrait of innocent concentration. I emailed about an initial inquiry. A pause, the soft click of a keyboard. Alina, yes, I was expecting your call. Are you in a secure location? The question, so direct, was both terrifying and reassuring. A public library. It's safe. Good, we'll keep this brief. You described a pattern of coercive control and physical intimidation. Your primary concerns are securing your son and achieving financial independence from a spouse with significant resources. Yes, document everything. Dates, times, specifics of incidents, any witnesses, photograph injuries, even old ones. Save all communications texts, emails, especially those that are demanding or critical. Do not use any devices he has access to or pays for. This phone is a good start. Do you have independent access to funds? A small allowance. He monitors the main accounts. Start siphoning small, untraceable amounts. Cash back at grocery stores, selling personal items he wouldn't notice. It will be slow, but it builds a war chest. Most importantly, do nothing to raise his suspicion. Your safety is paramount. We will need to plan your exit like a military operation. Are you prepared for that? Elena looked at her son. Yes. I'll be in touch via encrypted message to this number with next steps. Do not call this office again from any line. You are not alone, Alina. Remember that. The call ended. Alina sat shaking, the plastic phone slick in her hand. It was real. She had taken the first concrete step out of the cage. At Vertumna's capital, Leonid's empire was showing hairline fractures. He had instructed his team to stand down on the Halian Sons acquisition. The order was met with bewildered silence. Sir, the leverage is optimal. The board is expecting the announcement. His lead analyst, a sharp young man named Mark, had protested. The analysis was flawed, Leonid said, the lie tasting like ash. The long-term reputational risk outweighs the short-term gain. Redirect resources to the Petrov environmental audit. I want it exhaustive. He couldn't look at the holy file. The torn proposal, still in his briefcase, felt like a live wire. Instead, he threw himself into the Petrov merger, but his legendary focus was scattered. In meetings, he'd catch himself staring at the wives and corporate headshots on the wall, wondering about their smiles. He started noticing the dynamics in his own office, the way his assistant, Clara, jumped when he entered, the deferential silence that fell when he walked the floor. He'd always seen it as respect. Now it looked like fear. He found himself dialing his father's old estate lawyer, a man named Gregor, now retired. Leonid, Gregor's voice was wary. A surprise! I have some questions about my mother's estate, her personal effects, a long silence. Your father handled everything. You know that. There was not much to handle. She had a stipend. Her jewelry. That was all. Did she ever try to leave him? The question hung in the digital ether. Explosive. Gregor sighed, a sound of old regret. Leonid, some paths are best not walked in the dark. I need to know. Once, a year before he died, she came to me, scared out of her wits. She had a sister in Riga. She wanted to go. I drew up the preliminary papers. Your father found out. He didn't need to ask me how. He made a donation to a cause I cared about. The papers disappeared. She never spoke of it again. Is that what you needed? Leonid closed his eyes. Yes, thank you, Gregor. He hung up. The story was a perfect, terrible echo. The trap was not of his own design. It was a family heirloom. That night, he didn't retreat to his study. He stood awkwardly in the doorway of the living room where Elena was reading on the sofa. Misha was playing on the rug with wooden trains. How was your day? Leonid asked, the domestic banalities feeling foreign on his tongue. Elena's head snapped up, suspicion flashing in her eyes before she masked it. Fine. Quiet. Misha and I went to the park. Leonid nodded. He wanted to sit down, to ask about the park, but his presence was a distortion in the room's atmosphere. Misha glanced at him, then quickly looked back at his trains, his little body tightening. He's afraid of me too? Good, Leonid managed, and walked away, the failure acute. Anya Petrov's invitation arrived via elegant stationery, not email, a private viewing of emerging Baltic sculptors. This Friday, drinks at 7, it was addressed to both of them. Leonid saw it as a networking opportunity, a chance to solidify the Petrov connection. Elena saw it as her first test, a public outing under his scrutiny, where she might find a moment to connect with Anya. Friday arrived. Elena wore a black sheath dress, armor in its own way. The gallery was a converted warehouse in the arts district, all exposed brick and concrete floors. The sculptures were angular, raw pieces exploring themes of displacement and memory. Leonid moved through the crowd like a shark. Shaking hands, his charm switched to a low, impressive hum. Elena lingered before a piece titled, Mute Voluma, twisted column of bronze that seemed to scream in silence. She felt a presence beside her. It captures a certain domestic deafness, doesn't it? Anya Petrov said, sipping mineral water. She wasn't looking at the sculpture, but at Elena's reflection in the polished bronze. Elena's pulse quickened. The artist says it's about the words that are shaped but never spoken. The most powerful language, Anya murmured. Her gaze was assessing, but not unkind. Your lunch was lovely, Elena, a masterpiece of curation. I've been to many such performances. The word performances was deliberate. Elena met her eyes in the reflection. It's important to maintain the narrative. Anya gave a barely perceptible nod. My first husband was a narrative enthusiast, a stickler for plot. I found the role constricting. She plucked a business card from her clutch and placed it on the plinth beside the sculpture, as if contemplating it as part of the exhibit. It was for a women's art collective, not her personal card. They do remarkable outreach work, supporting female artists in transitional periods. You should visit their studio. It's a very supportive space. She glided away before Alina could respond. Elena's hand trembled as she pocketed the card. It wasn't an offer of help, but it was a map, a direction. Later, as their driver navigated the city lights, Leonid said, "You and Enya seem to have a moment." "That's good. Keep cultivating that. She's influential." "Yes," Alina said, staring out the window, the card burning a hole in her purse. "She's very insightful." Leonid's unraveling took a professional turn. In a key negotiation with the Petrov team, he let a concession slip that his analysts had warned against. It was a small thing, a rounding error in the grand scheme, but it was a mistake. Leonid Volkov did not make mistakes. Dmitry Petrov noticed. "Generous of you, Leonid," he'd said, his eyes narrowing with a predator's interest. The balance of power had subtly shifted. Back at the office, Mark, the lead analyst, confronted him. "Sir, with respect, that concession undermines our entire position on the environmental liability clause. It leaves us exposed." "I am aware of the terms, Mark," Leonid snapped, the old ice returning. But it was brittle. "Are you?" Mark's question was quiet, dangerous. "Because you've been off your game since the Holy deal collapsed. The board is asking questions." The word board was a threat. Leonid's control was not absolute. It was contingent on perpetual victory. He fired Mark that afternoon. It was a brute force reassertion of dominance, and it felt hollow, a move his father would have made. The staff's fear became palpable, a sour taste in the air. At home, the silence between him and Elena was a living thing. He tried again. He brought flowers, stiff, expensive lilies. She thanked him with that same polite, empty smile and put them in a vase. He asked about Misha's day at preschool. She gave a vague, cheerful answer that revealed nothing. He was an outsider in his own home, a curator observing his frozen exhibits, driven by a desperate need to do something. To fix the unfixable, he did the unthinkable. He logged into the household's cloud account, something he'd set up for security. He saw search histories from Elena's laptop, local women's shelters, international child abduction laws, a chilling phrase, ferry timetables to Sweden. The searches were days old. She had been more careful since. The discovery should have ignited his fury. Instead, it filled him with a cold, drowning terror. She was planning to leave. She was going to take his son. His father's ghost whispered, "Lock her down. Take her passport. Crush her spirit completely." It was the proven method, but Hale's voice was louder. That same brilliant, empty smile. He didn't confront her. He sat in the dark study, the ghost of his father in his chair, and realized he was faced with a choice: become the jailer fully, or become something else, something for which he had no blueprint. Alina visited the Women's Art Collective the following Tuesday. It was in a sun-drenched loft, filled with the smell of clay, paint, and coffee. Women of all ages worked at easels and pottery wheels. A kindly older woman named Greta greeted her. "Anya said you might come," Greta said, her eyes warm. "We're a space to create, or just to be." Over the next few weeks, under the guise of cultural research for Onya, Alina began to spend a few hours there each week. She didn't create art. She helped clean brushes, made tea, and listened. She heard stories of leaving, of starting over, of fear and triumph. It was a crash course in a life she could barely imagine. One afternoon, Greta found her staring blankly at a canvas. "The first brushstroke is the hardest," Greta said gently. "What if I don't know what to paint?" Alina whispered. "Then paint the cage," Greta said simply. "Paint it until you understand its shape, its lock, its key." Emboldened, Elena used the collective's secure computer. Irina, her lawyer, had set up an encrypted channel. A plan was forming. A contact in Sweden, a friend of Greta's, could offer temporary shelter. The complex part was the money and the exit timing. Leonid's upcoming trip to London for a week-long financial summit was the window. It was 3 weeks away. The tension snapped on a rainy Thursday night. Misha, overtired, threw a tantrum at dinner, knocking over a glass of water. Leonid, his nerves already shredded from a disastrous day where the Petrov deal had stalled, slammed his hand on the table. "Enough! Control him, Alina! Or must every single thing in this house be a mess?" Alina, who had been reaching for Misha, froze. She looked from her terrified son to her husband's contorted face. Something within her, a dam holding back 7 years of rage and despair, broke. "The only mess in this house is you," she said, her voice low and shaking with a fury he had never heard. "The only thing out of control is your need to control everything. You are a miserable, cruel man, and I will not let you make my son miserable and cruel too." The room went dead silent. Even Misha's cries hiccuped to a stop. Leonid stared, stunned. She had never fought back. "Not like this. How dare you?" he breathed, rising from his chair. "I dare because I am leaving you," she said, the words tumbling out, propelled by adrenaline. "In 3 weeks, when you're in London, I am taking Misha and we are disappearing. And you will never, ever lay a hand on us again." It was a catastrophic tactical error, born of pure emotion. The moment she said it, she saw his shock calcify into something cold and terrifyingly familiar. The predator re-emerged. "Leaving me?" he echoed, his voice dropping to a whisper. He walked around the table. She stood her ground, shielding Misha. "You think it will be that easy? You have nothing. You are nothing without my name, my money. I will bury you in legal battles. I will prove you an unfit mother. You will never see that boy again." It was the threat she feared most. It paralyzed her, but then something shifted in his face. He saw her fear, the absolute conviction in his threat. And he saw again his father. He was speaking his father's script verbatim. He stopped a foot from her. The rage drained from him, leaving a vast, hollow exhaustion. "You're right," he said, the words barely audible. Alina blinked, uncomprehending. "What?" "You're right," he repeated, louder. He ran a hand over his face. "About everything. I am my father. And this." He gestured around the perfect, sterile dining room at his cowering son, at his wife's defiant, terrified face. "This is his legacy. A beautiful, empty hell." He didn't try to touch her. He didn't yell. He just looked broken. "You should go? Take Misha. Go to your room. I'll stay in the study." He turned and walked away, his shoulders slumped, the picture of defeat. Alina stood frozen, Misha clinging to her legs, her mind reeling. Was this a trick? A new form of manipulation? But the shock on his face had been real. The self-loathing in his voice was unlike anything she'd ever heard. The following days were a surreal stalemate. Leonid moved into a guest room. He spoke to her only when necessary, his tone flat, devoid of its former cutting edge. He didn't go to the office. He claimed he was working remotely. One morning, she found a folder on the kitchen island. Inside were documents, a notarized statement granting her temporary exclusive use of the summer house on the Baltic coast. bank statements for a newly opened account in her name only, with a substantial sum transferred from his portfolio, and a single sheet of paper with the contact information for Irina Vasilova, his high-powered divorce lawyer, with a note, "She is expecting your call. She will advocate for you, not for me. Tell her I referred you." It was a surrender, a unilateral disarmament. Elena didn't know what to do with it. Trust was impossible, but the documents were real. She called Irina from her burner phone. "Elena," Irina said, "Leonid Volkov contacted me yesterday. He instructed me to represent you in divorce proceedings with the explicit goal of securing your primary custody, the Baltic property, and a significant settlement. He has waived all prenuptial claims. He insists on a fast, quiet dissolution." "Why?" Elena asked, her voice trembling. He didn't say, but his instructions were clear and legally binding. "He's giving you what you wanted, Elena, on a platter. My professional advice is to take it and not look a gift horse in the mouth. But my human advice is to be careful. Men like him don't change overnight." Elena met with Irina in person. The plans were set in motion. The escape was no longer a desperate flight, but a negotiated exit. It felt unreal. The night before Leonid was to leave for London, the trip he hadn't canceled, he asked to see Misia Elena. Hovering protectively, allowed it in the living room, Leonid knelt before his son, who looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. "I am sorry, Misha," Leonid said, his voice thick, "for the times I was not a good father, for the times I was frightening. You deserve a home filled with laughter, not silence. Be brave and be kind. Never be like me." He placed a small, wrapped box next to Misha, a simple wooden train engine, not an expensive toy. Then he stood, nodded once to Elena, a look of profound, weary finality in his eyes, and left the room. Leonid did not go to London. He drove to his father's old estate, now his, a cold mausoleum on a cliff overlooking the sea. He walked through the silent, dusty halls. He found his mother's old sitting room. In a drawer of her writing desk, buried under sheet music, he found what he was unconsciously looking for, a faded photograph of her as a young woman before his father, laughing freely, her eyes alight. On the back, in her delicate script, Natalia, 1979, the summer of possibilities. He took the photograph and left the house. He drove to the Hawley & Sons headquarters, a modest but sturdy brick building. He asked to see Alistair Halley. The old man received him in a cluttered office smelling of machine, oil and old books. He said nothing, just waited. Leonid placed the torn halves of the acquisition proposal on his desk. Then he placed a new document beside it. It was a proposal for a partnership. Vertinas Capital would invest in modernizing Hale & Sons plants, protecting jobs, and sharing patent profits. It was a terrible deal by his old metrics. It left money on the table. It was built on sentiment. "I don't expect your forgiveness," Leonid said, his voice raw, "or your trust. But I would like to learn a different game. If you're willing to teach." Halley looked at the partnership proposal, then at Leonid's face. Stripped of its arrogance, pale and sincere, he saw the ghost of Ivan Volkov, but also something else. Something fragile trying to break through. "The first lesson," Halley said slowly, "is that it's not a game at all. It's stewardship. You can sign that, but the real work starts tomorrow, and it never ends." Leonid nodded. "I understand." Elena stood on the porch of the Baltic summer house, watching Misha chase seagulls on the windy beach. The divorce was proceeding smoothly, quietly. The settlement would leave her independent for life. The house was hers. It was small, weathered, and filled with the sound of the sea and her son's unfettered laughter. A package arrived with no return address. Inside was the porcelain soup tureen, the one with the cobalt swallows. It had been repaired by a master kintsugi artist. The cracks were sealed with gleaming gold lacquer, making the pattern of breakage a permanent, beautiful part of its history. There was no note, comma. She placed it on a shelf in the bright, airy kitchen, where the morning sun caught the gold seams. It was no longer a symbol of perfection demanded, but of something broken and meticulously, beautifully remade. A testament that a thing could be both flawed and whole, could hold its history without being defined by it. In the city, Leonid Volkov worked in a modest office at Halley & Sons. He answered to a board. He made mistakes and learned from them. He ate takeaway at his desk and sometimes smiled at a photograph of a laughing woman from 1979 taped to his monitor. The cage was gone. What remained was the arduous, daily, and imperfect work of building something real. For the first time in his life, he was free.